Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the brief Monday, August 17th of 2020. Had a good weekend, couple of public relations events, had an interview go out, and also had a magazine cover for Platform Magazine in DC. So pretty good day as far as promoting the podcast. So hopefully we'll see some more folks in the morning room. If you are catching us on a replay, thank you so much for checking us out. Reach out to me at steve@ototnow.com as far as getting your free trial to the week. Come on in for free, check it out. You're going to like what you see. Basically, this is an investment forum where a bunch of minds get together in the morning. I kind of lead us through, and we'll talk about some long-term and short-term investing stuff. What you don't see is there's a chat window and a question and answer window, which is how people in the room communicate with each other and with me. So you can throw anything you want me to talk about into the chat or the Q&A, and I'll go through that real time. So that's kind of what we're doing here, and let's get on to the rest of the brief. As far as our mission objectives, we're going to grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. The specific topics we're going to talk about this morning are the work from home stocks. And that's largely because both Home Depot and Lowe's report this week. So again, that first big full quarter after coronavirus came out. So that's what we're going to be talking about, those as well as some others that benefited from the work from home environment. For our question of the day, it's going to be how to set up a SEP IRA, which is a self-employed IRA. I will cover that all the way at the end after I take care of your questions in the room there, and that's mostly for entrepreneurs or independent contractors to be able to fund a 401k type instrument since you don't have that available to you. All right, as far as the flow today, we'll go long, short, open, short, long, which means we're going to talk long-term stuff like the market review and then the headline review. Then we'll get into short-term day trading stuff through the open. I will call a couple trades for you if they set up. Once those trades resolve, then we'll go back to the long-term stuff and take a look at how the market is affecting us today. And so far, so good. It's in the green on a Monday morning. I like it. All right. As far as down at the bottom, if you have any tech support, you can go right to steve@ototnow.com. My staff is monitoring that real time to be able to help you out with any issues you may have. And then lastly, standard disclaimer applies. This is an educational briefing. So therefore, you have to do your own due diligence before you act on anything you hear me say today. All right, let's check out. We'll go up to the Think Pipes, which is the TD Ameritrade platform, and we'll check out the one-year SPY and review. Of note there at the end, no new AI trend lines being drawn, but is pretty much been straight up. S&P, which is what this replicates, is closing in on its all-time high, but not quite there yet, as you can see, but it keeps bouncing off of it. Maybe today we shall see. All right, but of note, when you look at the last, 10, 12 days there, pretty much everything's in green except for one red day, and that wasn't even that big of a red day. So definite uptrend in the market. Let's take a look at the Qs real quick. Again, the QQQ resembles the NASDAQ, which has just been on fire. So it's taken a little bit of a breather after going straight up to new highs. Now it's kind of a breather mode while the S&P kind of catches up there. All right, let's go back to the SPY, and then we'll close in on the last 5 days. So really what you'll see here is, pretty good on Monday through Thursday of last week, and then into Thursday on into Friday, just kind of tapered off. So that's not uncommon, but you can see that the futures are up to the 33.7 and change level. So overall trending higher going into the market open. As far as the calendar, the only earnings I caught last night were early this morning was JD.com, which again is a Chinese internet firm. So just think Chinese technology. And those are the folks that they beat earnings, and most of the Chinese firms have been doing pretty well. However, obviously with any of those firms, you run into the issue of they have some regulation risk because Trump is going after China pretty hard. So that was it for earnings. And then this week, like I said earlier, we have Home Depot and Lowe's reporting this week. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the around the world for the market, starting with the U.S. futures in the green there. NASDAQ almost up a full percent. We'll check out Europe. Again, everybody in the green there. Over to Asia. China and Hong Kong, or China's up pretty good, over 2%. Japan down 1%, and then Hong Kong's up. All right, let's take a look at Friday. Mostly looking at the VIX. VIX sitting around 22. there. So again, that 30 is that increased volatility level. It's coming. We don't know when, but it's coming. Over to bonds. Bonds are in the red across the board there. Oil down a little bit, still holding 40 strong, and then on into the precious metals. These sold off last week, so it looks like they're getting a little bit of a pop this morning. Again, those will be bouncing off of new highs, at least for gold going into the election. All right, let's take a look at headline review. Okay, you know, Congress let out and then they called everybody back for the USPS postal bill. So we'll see what comes out of that. We'll keep an eye on that this week, maybe today for something there. Home builder sentiment jumps. So again, Home Depot, Lowe's, if you've tried to, if you've gone to any of those places during the pandemic, they're sold out of a lot of stuff. So they have really, really benefited as companies from the work from home environment, people doing home projects. As far as home building, when you're looking at folks trying to now do all those projects that they wanted to, again, putting in pools, things like that, there's a backlog for that whole area. All right, don't know about the McDonald's CEO issue, so we'll pass that, we'll skip that. On down we go. Okay, Goldman's calling 7% from here. I'm kind of calling flat into the end of the year. I mean, it won't be exactly flat, but I think a roller coaster that ends up fairly flat into the end of the year is about what I think we shall see. Again, the election will take place. We'll dip towards the election. I think we'll get back to where we were going into December. We shall see. Maybe for some reason there's a nice clean election and you know there's not many issues, but I don't think that'll happen. Okay, Buffett sold some banks. It was out this weekend, did sell out of some banks, which he's been a huge proponent of banks, but and he moved into some gold names. You can see Barrick Gold there. So that's not super common for Buffett to do that, but he's kind of calling higher volatility there by making that move. All right, and continue on down. All right. New Zealand again went 90 days without a case, and now they've got some. So it'll be interesting to see why that was or how those came up. All right, we can continue on down and close this out. Hertz we talk about all the time. We'll check their stock a little later today and see what's going on there in their bankruptcy proceedings. All right, one more scroll down and we will close this out. All right, that's it. All right, over to FinViz. We will take a look at the Home Depot for our stock today that we're going to take a look at. There you can see the chart. Again, pretty much straight up since the big drop. All the way down to almost 140. Again, this is a name, it's best of breed, pretty much hold all the way through, but and then almost a double or right at a double from the exact lows there. So screened back higher in a true V-shaped recovery, and then kind of melting up from there. I do expect them to again beat earnings and probably continue to go higher from there. So that's a big part of the chart. It does pay a 2% dividend, and you can see all of the short float. There's hardly any, which is a very good sign, and that nobody's betting against it. And then the last part, you see the all those nice green numbers for the annual rate of return there. So with that, we'll bring that down. We'll go over to Schwab's, over to the big board. We'll take a look at the other names there. So what you see is Home Depot in the upper left. Then you have Lowe's, pretty much a similar chart. I generally only load up on best of breed, but I've had so much Home Depot. I've also bought Lowe's for several people as well. Some have both in the account, depending on your account size. And again, those have paid off handsomely. I don't see a situation to even bother selling those through the election. I think the work from home thing is here to stay, and they stand to benefit from that going higher. Obviously, Amazon, you know about, has been screaming higher since we're not leaving the house. Everything comes to the house. and Amazon's your big player for doing that. Over to Zoom, and if you look at Zoom, Zoom got a little out of control there for a while. It was down in the 60s, and then everybody was buying Zoom hand over fist. Then they got into some tracking issues. A lot of companies, Zoom is kind of the home gamer sort of company, if you will, if you're trying to run your business on it. Bigger platforms are going to use Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx, other names out there that have that are probably a little better for an enterprise. But the Zoom stock has zoomed higher, if you will. And I don't see it going much higher from here. I wouldn't touch it here, actually. And if you have it, I would probably say take some profits. I have some that some folks have said I want it no matter what. So it's there, but I think you can get rid of it. DocuSign, you can see there in the lower left, again, benefiting from the work from home environment. Didn't really sell off much at all. And then it's going higher from there. Why I don't like DocuSign is I'm not exactly clear how they get paid. I've used it for years, personally and professionally. I've never paid them a dime. I'm a little curious as who's footing the tab for all of that. Possibly it's TD Ameritrade and Schwab that are paying them big dollars, but I just don't know. And if I can't follow the money, then I'm generally not going to invest in something. But it's had a nice run up again. Would not touch it anywhere up here. Now what you will see is the last one is a work from home ETF, if you will. So again, if you don't want to try to pick these, you just go into the ETF appropriately named WFH, since that has its own little abbreviation that kind of came out of nowhere for this year. But as you can see, June 20th was when it started, June 25th is when it started trading. So fairly new, what's that, less than 2 months old, and kind of all over the place. I tend to think of these things as I would rather be in individual names than worry about a WFH. It's like, I don't know. It's easier to pick out individual names. You can see that stock or the ETF really hasn't gotten that much love, and that's kind of not surprising there. So, all right, that's what we have for the long-term stuff. Again, the work from home theme. It appears that like it will become a long-term thing. A lot of folks are already saying, okay, indefinitely, you can work from home either all the time or up to a certain amount. So if COVID would magically go away, there would still be a work from home component going forward. All right, let's go over to the tab. You're going to see some names populate in the chat here that we're going to take a look at. The first one is NVIDIA. Again, headlines taking this one higher here, so we'll take a look at that chart. You know, last week we talked about the chip stocks, and this one has definitely gone higher. So as far as if it's gapping, I'm trying to pull a number, but 462 up to 474. So maybe that's around 2% or so as far as how much it's gapping higher. It has really just been going straight up. So again, tough to hop in on something like this for a day trade, but you could do it. It's got plenty of volume there. So we'll take a look at that. Next one is JD.com off of earnings. You can see there another about 2%. It's still closed at 62. It's gapping up to 65. 6%. Can't do math this morning. And it does have the volume, so it's kind of hard of the envelope for what we're looking at for going long. So I do like that. That's something we will take a look at this morning. GOLD, again, this is headline news off of Warren Buffett buying the stock. So let's generally stay away from these, but it's gapping 27 up to 29. That's what almost, it's a little over 10% there. So pretty good gap. And it was just what, a few days ago, you're looking at about 2.5 months there on that chart. So, all right, yeah. So zooming in 5, 6, 7, 8 days ago, it was above that level. So does it have more room to run? Probably. We shall see. And it's got kind of the election theme going up with it. So we'll keep an eye on GOLD long. All right, some short names we'll take a look at real quick before we get into the tabs are SRNE. Again, this is Sorrento Therapeutics. This will be a continuation. Gosh, huge gap down, 1244 down to 1090. Big chart on the right showing 12.5%. So something to keep an eye on. kind of out of our parameters, but if we can't find anything better to monitor short, which again, it's been tough lately because the market seems to go up every day, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's check out HTZ. Again, this is Hertz. This is just off the bankruptcy news. Not really news. It's been in bankruptcy for a while. So not gapping at all, not really trading well. It does have 100,000 shares that traded up pre-market, so a little bit there. Again, I don't know who would be buying it here, but I don't know if you would get the move down. If you would get into a name like this, you're looking at a 3 or 4 cent stop to try to catch the move down. But we'll come back to it. Okay, let's look at our tabs. Again, if you have any long or short names that you think would be worth looking at day trading, go ahead and put those right into the chat. All right, as far as first tab here, talked about JD.com. Let's see what's going on with Opco Health. It's gapping out OPK. It's gapping out of our range, but see, I don't have the headline there. 480 up to 556. Again, that's that magic transition into above $5. Does look like it has a little bit of room to run. So probably not putting money towards it, but we will take a look. NEO, a lot of volume, but it's not really moving. Okay, let's take a look at the next tab. Okay, PRNB, let's take a look at that for a long. PRNB, please. Principe Biopharma, see what we can, 3 million shares. So obviously it's got a lot to digest here. Buzz on the street, eyes record high after, click on this headline right there, the 3.7 billion buyout. See what I can get at the bottom here. French drug maker Sanofi to buy their outstanding shares for $100 shares in cash. Okay, so it's a buyout deal. These guys are getting bought at 100 and sitting at 99, right? So that is about what you can expect. So getting bought out, no real way to play that. So you can take that out of your notes since it's sitting near the buyout price. All right, let's take a look at, we looked at NVIDIA up to 2.5. Don't need to look at that again. Tesla's been on fire. Just pull the Tesla chart there real quick. So again, you know about the stock split coming up. So it's, nearing back to its 1,700 plus all-time highs there. So pretty good move. You can't really touch that here. All right, over to the next tab, please. Dust is an index, so really not finding much. We're going to look on another screen if we're going to pull the pre-market gappers to see what we can find, and it's already here, so I'll just talk out loud. The Sorrento's with volume. Let's pull up a MTP on our screen. This is Mitatech Pharma. It's gapping down at 11%. Well, almost a continuation fall from 4.25. I kind of like that just because it should fall back down into the whatever good news it had. It will probably fall back down into the near the $2 range. So we will definitely be taking a look at this as our short. All right, and not much volume, not enough volume on this one, but Boxlight, BOXL. It's down 8% to it, so it does meet our criteria. Same sort of thing, good news a couple days ago. It's coming off of earnings and sold off into earnings there. So it's a 222 down to 213. We'll just keep an eye on it. I like MTP a little better. Box L. All right, let's go to the next tab of the top 25 gainers. Shell's up there. Let's take a look at Shell. You know, it's a name we follow. No headline news, 24 to 26. If this one's gapping, maybe we'll see some of our other EV plays out there. It certainly meets our criteria for a long, but no headline to go with, or at least something that's hasn't been published. And what's it gone? Moved up from 20 all the way up to 26 in the past couple of days. So that'd be more of a continuation. So we'll keep an eye on it. Put it down as my fourth choice, if you will. Yep, let's take a look at GSX Tech. I am not familiar with what they do, but they meet our criteria. Up there's a headline. They're going to report. That's not that much, and it's big deal. A leading online large class after school tutoring service in China. Interesting. There's also another one with all that almost exact same thing, Learn, LRNE. This one has been on fire again for its online learning stuff. Sorry, just LRN. I misspoke there. So again, this is kind of in a stock to watch, if you will. It's gapping up as well, not as much, but we'll certainly cycle back to it. It was a name that was thrown to me as a recommendation this weekend, actually. For a long term. All right, fine. Let's see, gold, blah, 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 majestic silver, not going to go into those names. All right, let's look at the last tab. So let's pull up, Opco Health, OPK. Let's just take a look at that real quick. We already looked at it, sorry. No headline, but it's gapping back up. Above $5. That was the story there. All right, GrowGen, we'll check them out. No headline, going up from $13 to $14. We'll go on the list for us to take a look at. All right. Overstock.com, let's check that out. Maybe that's an earnings. All right, we got an overweight rating for Overstock. Let's back that chart out a little bit. Wow, 16 from June all the way up to 93, gapping up to 99 and an overweight. Well, this stock has been on fire. Where's this been my whole life, right? I can't jump into it here even for a trade. That's kind of crazy. Okay. Netgear, not enough volume. Pinduoduo, check that out. Chinese name, most likely PDD. They're joining the NASDAQ on August 24th. So what's that, next Monday? $85 to $90. I kind of like that chart. We'll take a look at PDD for a trade higher. Actually, I like that a little better than GLD. Did it have the volume? Yes, it's got the volume. All right, let's put that 2, move this down to 5, ranking on another sheet. All right, low volume on Netgear, JD, we already talked about. Okay, all right, 5 minutes to go. We'll set up our big board here. We're gonna go over to TD Ameritrade and Think Pipes. And let's set up JD on the left-hand column. We'll put PDD in the middle and MTP on the short side. So again, this would be long, long, short. All right, looking at JD, sold off, let's see, from 66 down to 65 going into the open, with the market not tracking down with it. So if we were to enter this name, probably might be able, we'll have to watch it open. Can't take it right away. We'd have to wait for about a 50-cent stop on JD. All right, PDD. Again, gapping up for inclusion into the NASDAQ from 85 to 40. We could see this name getting added. Let's see if we're looking at about a 40-cent stop. Might be able to tighten that up, but I'm putting 40 in my notes for getting ready. And then short, looking at MTP. I'm thinking 10 cents, but we might need to only go about 7 cents just for how far it's going to travel. So I will target 7 cents in MTP, and that's why I want you to have your trade ticker set up. Let's look at MTP first, and we'll let the others set up. Set it up for a 7-cent stop, and we can go from there. So when you think R units, so 7 cents, that tells you, okay, that's 1 R. So if you're, again, R is 100 or 300, 350, whatever you're using, make sure you use the spreadsheet. To do that, if you need the spreadsheet, go to ototnow.com/resources, and you can find the spreadsheet to where you can put this information in. Again, you should have that set up on one screen over there. So put in your stop, and that'll tell you what your R unit is, and set that, and that'll tell you how many shares for you to be able to short. There may be a lot of people shorting MTP in this morning, so we'll see if you can get it. Again, have everything set up. When you hit short, if it says no shares available, you completely bail on it and you go off to another one. So MTP will be first, PDD will be second as far as our priority, and JD will be third. Let's look at another name up there on that left panel. Put GOLD. Quite a bit more volume in this. Again, this is the Warren Buffett play. People looking to buy into this because of that. Let's look at Shell, SHLL. All right, click Shell over. You can either scroll and find it or type it, one of the two. All right, again, no headline associated from that move up to 24 to 26 or so. So tough for a day trading perspective there. All right, on this screen, let's go to the main layout, if you will. Keep a look at some names. One last thing for setting up on our screen, I want to look at BOXL on that left screen. Again, this would be a short. Let's watch that out of the open. So it'll be BOXL, PDT, and MTP. For the setup, again, this is more of a scalp. So you're looking at a 5-cent stop and may not get 3 R's. So if we would buy it at 211, I would kill the trade at 2. If it got down to, if it smacked 2, I would just get out. So not quite enough room for a full 3R trade. 4-cent stop, maybe. I'll call that stop as we get into it there for the open. So BOXL, 5 or 4-cent stop. All right, about 20 seconds out. Here we go, 20 seconds of the market open. Today's play of the day. You'll see up here on Think Pipes, we have the market off to the left, showing you that we're going higher. We have BOXL, that is a short. We're looking for a 4 or 5 cent, kind of a scalp trade there. And to catch that, PDD is a long, as you can see. We'll be looking at one long, and then MTP is also a short. So you heard the bell there. We're focusing on our BOXL. to see if we can get an entry, as well as MTP. The short names is where our priority is. Again, we've got plenty of volume in BOXL. I like that it's moved up to 2014. Let's watch it for one more second. Let's take it at 2013 short. So 2013 will be our entry for BOXL. Set up a 4-cent stop up to 2017. And then this gives us all the way down to basically $2.01 as our lower limit. We'll get us an arrow in there to kind of remind you real quick that we are going short, and then we are in that trade. Okay, so we're in the trade to box L. We're gonna watch that sell off. PDT, man, that is $2 kind of doji there. Looks like it's going higher. We're just gonna give that a second. Look at the overall market down red in that first minute, at least a red candlestick anyway. And then over to MTP, already down 12.5%. Again, that was a continuation down. So MTP for our, it's called a 7-cent stop. So if we set this up, it would give us up to 245, and then all the way down to selling off at 21. We do have plenty of volume coming in. All right, let's take MTP short if it hits 236. So you're not in it now, but if it goes to if it's max 236, then we are going to take it. And again, that will be a short. So we'll keep an eye on one eye on that. The other one's over about even in BOXL. And PDD, it looked like it was going to go screaming higher, and then it didn't. So you have yourself set up for MTP. We're not in that trade. If it hits 236, we're going to take it with a 7-cent stop. So doing the math ahead of time. Well, it went up north of that. Let's see. We'll just keep an eye on that. Finally got to move down in BOXL. So again, 201 is our, let's see, yep, $2.01 is our exit trade there. So that's down over an R. We'll keep an eye on that. Don't like PDD at all. And again, that would be our long name. So it's flopping around too much. Let's replace PDD in the middle with GOLD, long. Again, this is the Warren Buffett headline play. So it's at about a 30% range that it's kind of flopping around in there. Not really too excited about that. Let's take a look at NVDA long in that middle pane. So up to around 3% or so. Again, this is off of a headline. I believe it was an upgrade. I'm watching MTP. It's kind of catching my eye. Boy, that's moved 10 cents higher. I kind of love the short entry here. Volume's good. I'm looking, so thinking out loud, we're not in that trade. I'm thinking about taking it 244 short. Again, if we did that, it would be a 5-cent stop. I missed it. Again, looking at MTP, trying to get an entry here. I like it better at 244. I don't think it's going to see that again, though. Well, maybe. All right. All right, NVIDIA is going higher. Let's look at another thing. Let's see, pull up Shell again in that middle pane. Again, the only trade we're in is the one to the left. You can see it structured there on the screen. We're up in R. And again, that short and BOXL. All right, so Shell, looking at the opening here, it was up 6%. So nice gap there. Looks like MTP is working missed the entry there at 244, so got to kind of let that one go. But I do think it just continues to sell off throughout the day. But we didn't get it. All right, Shell keeps bouncing off of 26. There must be a buyer right there. If you look at the line all the way across to pre-market, once it got north of 26, it keeps hitting 26. So two things that can serve as a floor at 26, or once that buyer's exhausted, then there's nothing to support it at 26, and it can go lower. Not really digging the Shell setup there. Let's look at OPK is another name we looked at for long. That was just, it was gapping up above 5, not working there. Get rid of OPK. Let's look at GSK. Again, that's a long. Not moving a whole lot. Again, kind of low volume. Let's take a look at GSK was the Chinese K through 12 system. Let's look at LRN, which is the US. So not a lot of movement there. All right, and then GRWG is a long. You're gonna look at in the middle pane. It gapped up, but boy, it's not really moving higher. So 6 minutes in, I wouldn't try to catch the move at this point. All right, looks like we're just gonna have the one trade for today. Just BOXL is what we're watching. We're down at that near an R. We'll keep an eye on it. I do think it continues to sell off, so set your stops. If you want to adjust your stop back down to 215, so you're barely in the red, if it goes back up, that would mean it would have to go through the high of the open. I wouldn't do that. I'd just leave it at 217 and just call it a day. Go to the gym, check back on your trade a little later. All right. On short, let's look at that. So we've got our one trade ran to the left. We got the longs in the middle. On the right, we'll look at some short names. Pull up a SRNE. This has been selling off. This would be a continuation. Sorry, let's put in the middle pane. Let's go back to our long. Let's put Shell in the middle pane, SHLL. We'll keep that as our long pane. And then on the right screen, we'll put that, thank you, SRNE. Ooh, continuation, that did work. Be pretty tough to take it out of the gate, but you could have taken it when it cracked below 10.6 or so. Low of the day, continue to sell off. Gosh, down 18%. If you back the Sorrento chart out, you can see the house of pain that I'm talking about. So if we can back out Sorrento to like a 20-day or so. So there it goes, up at 21.26. Now it's at half of that. So again, continuing to sell off there. Can't really stab a short into it here, but I think it does continue down. Hard to really tell how far it would go. All right, let's look at Hertz and see how that opened. Again, we'll zoom in here, back to our normal kind of charts, if you will. So again, this would have been a 4-cent kind of scalp on the way down. Don't know who's buying Hertz, but we're not going to touch it. Let's see, BOXL we are in, and MTP. Let's check out MTP one last time. See what it ended up doing. Again, wanted that entry higher up around 244, did not get it. Don't want to take it down in this range at all. All right, let's look at some other names on that right hand. Let's look at, so we saw Shell was in place, so BLNK. Check our other EV names off of percent. Let's look at Plug, PLUG. Really? Plug must have a headline out there associated with it. Sorry, let's pull Plug up off to the right and see if we can see what that headline is. Again, I'm looking on a separate screen now just to check to see what might be driving Plug higher here. No news, but it's been on fire. You know, Blink and Plug tend to travel together. They're traveling differently today, so that's weird. All right, let's look at, pull up Tesla. All right, buck above 1700 against all times highs around 1750-ish. So it's creeping up on that. Remember, we had the big stock split coming up. All right, let's take a look at Nikola in KLA. In the green a little bit, but not traveling much. All right, check back on our trade. We're an hour and a half on our trade, so we'll just continue to watch that. We're going to go over to charts and check out the rest of the markets. This is where, for the folks who are checking this out for the first time, now switching back to our long investment hats. And we're looking at left-hand column. So you see the 5-day SPY. We'll back that out to a year in the SPY while we're kind of taking a look at things here. All right, that's an option up top. Shroom is a psychedelic name. Clickstream up 7%. Again, penny stock, but there are a lot of news coming down the road. We'll keep an eye on that. Tesla up. LCA has been getting a lot of love lately. So I think they're ready to do their SPAC IPO into GNOG because it's been up. Home Depot, we talked about. There's Home Depot and Lowe's in the top 20 there for today. All right, a lot of names in the green. That looks pretty nice. Overall, the Dow's just barely in the green. NASDAQ's up 0.2%, and S&P's up 1/3. All right, let's look at the red names. See what's moving down today. Boeing down, just a couple percent, nothing huge there. Delta Airlines, bank stocks are off a little bit. DraftKings down. You know what name I haven't seen? Luckin Coffee. All right, well, we'll leave it and we'll go back to our day trading charts and kind of see what's going on there. I saw Luckin in the green. That's pretty good. Okay, market doing pretty well. Look, our day trades down at the 2.5 hour actually hit 201. So we depending on if it hit exactly 201, we would be out of this trade again with our 3-hour trade. So it looks like it's so you'd want to check to see, because when it just touches it, that doesn't mean everybody at that level got filled. That means that some people got filled at that level. So you would want to check to see if you got filled there at the 3-hour point. If you didn't get filled, I would hold on. This has got plenty of, I think it's got plenty of room to the downside. Generally, when people put, like an institutional come in, they'll put in a big order at like 2. So bouncing off of 201 is a pretty good place to be. So overall, we took one trade today, and it looks like it's turning out to be successful if you limit it out right at 3. Otherwise, just keep an eye on it, and it should limit you out. If you want to call it good and take your 2.5 hour trade off the table, you can, but I have no problem letting this one go. All right, let's wrap up at the chat. Pretty quiet today, everybody, so nothing in the chat or the Q&A. And then the last thing, we will leave the trade up there so we can just watch that while I'm talking about the topic of the day. So let me get kind of set up for that. Today's question of the day is how to set up a SEP IRA. So SEP IRA stands for Self-Employed Pension. IRA, Individual Retirement Arrangement. Most people say Individual Retirement Account. But a SEP IRA is uniquely for folks that are either entrepreneurs that don't have access to a traditional 401k, or folks that have gone down an independent contractor route to where they're technically working for themselves as a contractor to a company, and they also don't have access to a traditional 401k, if you will. So that's why the IRS has set up, and these things are going to be a little tricky. So before you take action, you'd want to go to irs.gov and make sure you're following all the rules. But there's solo 401ks, there's simple IRAs, but the SEP IRA, the one I'm talking about today, is by far the easiest to set up and to be able to monitor. So I would start there before you got fancier into the other topics. So we talked about why you would have one of these, and that's because if you've been working for a normal company, you have access to a 401k, you have access to a 403b, maybe if you're teaching. You might have 457 plans in there, which is deferred compensation. Or if you're military/government, you'll have access to the thrift savings plan. those sorts of things are what the government has set up for you to be able for you to go in and now save for retirement. Obviously, when you're out on your own, you don't have access to those. So that's why the SEP IRA exists. As far as the contribution limits, which it's pretty generous. So with a normal 401k, you can go up to $19,500 per year. That's the 2020 limit. Well, with a SEP IRA, you can go up to 25% of your compensation. And that number is up over 200,000. So when you really look about, if you made over $250,000 in your either entrepreneur venture or as an independent contractor, A, good for you, that's a good salary out on your own. And B, you can take basically a fourth of that and put it into your SEP IRA. So technically 56,000 is the 2020 limit, but you're going to have to, part of this is you have to go through the calculations to be able to go in and actually take the and set this up for yourself and get the tax benefits of doing so. The specific rules, if you're a solo, so if you're self-employed and it's just you, so a solo practitioner, you have a slightly different computation you have to make. So IRS Pub 560 is your friend. That's one that covers all the IRAs, but you can get in there and specifically look at how you calculate the self-employed rules for that. It's basically a good rule of thumb. I have this for me. It's about 20% of your compensation instead of the 25%. You have to adjust it for a couple things. Okay, the SEP IRA, as far as the type of IRA, it is like a traditional IRA. So what that means is that you get the tax benefits of whatever you put into your SEP IRA. You don't end up paying income tax on. So just like a traditional 401k, if you sock away $10,000, that means that's $10,000 you're not paying tax on this year. There is not a Roth component. So if you, just as a refresher, a Roth, you pay the taxes now, but it's never taxed again. There's no function with that for the SEP IRA. You have to do a traditional SEP IRA where you get the tax break going in, and then it accrues over time, and then later on when you're retired and you take money out, that's when you will get taxed on the overall total. As far as the distributions, again, same numbers apply. So if you're 59 and a half, say you work for yourself, once you hit 59 and a half, you can start taking money out of your SEP IRA. And if you hit age 72, which again is now the new age based off of the Secure Act from late 2019, at age 72, you have to start taking your mandatory distributions, minimum required distributions out of your traditional and SEP IRAs. All of those together, you have to take that out. And when you go to do so, remember, if you have a traditional IRA account, a SEP IRA account, and maybe a traditional TSP, you will either have to take a required minimum distribution for each of those, or you can calculate what the required minimum distribution is for each of those and then take it from any of those accounts. So there's a little bit of paperwork you want to have either done for you by your CPA or do it yourself. But either way, you want to make sure you do that. Now, why would you take it all from one account? Maybe you have $12,000 sitting in your SEP IRA and your required minimum distribution is $13,000. Well, in that case, you can take the entire $12,000 out of the SEP IRA, kind of kill off that account since it's a smaller account anyway, and then take the $1,000 from somewhere else, if that makes sense. So there can be some mental gymnastics for you to do when you get to distribution phase. Okay, as far as an example, you can take a SEP, you can have a SEP IRA. Like for example, I have a SEP IRA and I also have a traditional / or a Roth IRA. So remember, an individual can put up to $6,000 a year into an IRA, either traditional or Roth. If you're over 50 like I am, then you can add an extra $1,000, so up to $7,000. You can have that in addition to your SEP IRA. Much like you can have that in addition to your thrift savings plan, you could have it in addition to your 403B. Basically, it's separate. So you could max out your IRA every year, again, $6,000 or $7,000 if you're in the position to do so, and also your workplace stuff as well. Okay, as far as how to set up the SEP IRA, which was my title, um, the it's a IRS form. It's a one pager, 5305-SEP. Again, if you go to Pub 560 and put in SEP IRA, it'll take you right to the landing page for all the rules. You, the employer, sign that form. Basically, it's your company entity up at the top. You have to put some information in the middle, which are all either zeros or does not. And then at the bottom, you will sign it, and that officially establishes that. You take that and you put that into your folder that you have with all your founding documents, that sort of thing, and go from there. Also, if you're working with somebody like me, a financial advisor, if you have one, send a copy to your financial advisor as well, just so they have it in case you misplace yours. You do not send this form to the IRS. It is simple bookkeeping for you. Now, when you think of how the money flows, so you need to have the money flow to your entity and not to you. So if you're an independent contractor, or for me, that's a sole proprietor LLC, when people pay me, they're not paying Steve Anchorstar. They are paying Afterburner Financial or On Time On Target. Money has to come into the business entity. So that's where the money flows in. And then, as part of the SEP IRA, you, the employer, are paying yourself, the employee. So basically, if you're going to put in $1,000, say a month, the money comes into the business. If you want to make this pure, out of the business checking account, you are taking $1,000 check and giving to yourself as the employee. Then the employee turns around, sends it into the brokerage, and funds the account. Obviously, the employer can set it up to where it's going straight into your SEP IRA as well. So that's how the money kind of flows, and you're wearing two different hats there: the employer hat and the employee hat. Setting it up is the employer, and then funding the account is the business funding your employee account. Again, we talked about the tax savings and the distributions. One thing we didn't talk about is if you're working into above age 70, even though on one hand at 72 you have to start taking minimum distributions, you still can, as long as you're working, be putting money into the account. So you can fund it at the same time while you're doing that. Or while you're taking distributions. All right, once you retire, you can merge your SEP IRA into your traditional IRA. That's more of a bookkeeping thing, just to kind of have it in one place. But once you're done contributing to it, then yes, you can merge it in there, considered like entities. And the last thing is you have to have it set up by the due date. So if you think of regular IRA rules, what you're doing is you don't have to worry about it during your current year, say for 2020. It's but going into 2021, when you file your taxes, that's when you would set up your SEP IRA. And then you can do all your calculations. And again, whatever you put into that, you don't have to pay taxes on. So for setting it up and funding your SEP IRA, it follows normal IRA rules, not 401k rules. Normal IRA rules, meaning the year can happen and you're off early into the next year. And when you're figuring out the taxes, that's where you can make your determination and fund it. If for whatever reason, say you fund your SEP IRA on a monthly basis, and then something happens and that turns out to be an excess contribution, that's okay. Just like any other IRA, if there's an excess contribution, you simply do the paperwork. There's a couple of calculations that go with that. And then you can take those back out to make it right, because you're not expected to have a perfect crystal ball. So that's what I had for my presentation. We do have one question that came in live while I was talking, and it's, can you be eligible for a SEP IRA if you have a side business in addition to working? So thank you, Berner, for your question there. And the answer is yes. So you have a traditional job where you're putting in your maximum to your 401k. In your side business, you can have a SEP IRA and continue to fund that. So again, that's a lot of money that you're able to put away. So you would certainly want to do that if you can. All right, that's all you have for today's show. Please reach out through ototnow.com with any questions or comments. Thanks again for joining me, and here's to you fighting the good fight every day to be on time, on target with your financial goals. Bye.